Hey guys, in this video I wanted to talk a little bit about the track layout, the final layout, so let's have a look at that now. Okay, I've put some markers into the track here at the top. So we've got intro, verse 1, chorus 1. You've heard the track already in the course intro, so I'm not going to play it all the way through again. But the way I structured it was intro, verse 1, chorus 1, then we've got a break, verse 2 with that little bit of I'll have a look at this in a second actually. Verse 2, chorus 2, then we've got the guitar solo. We're going to look at that in a little bit more detail in a second actually, in the next video. And then we've got chorus 2 repeat, which is our track ending, our outro. So in terms of how you structure a track, now the reason we've got the playlist up on Spotify is that you can actually have a look at a few different styles of vocal track here. So just in particular, the one this particular course was based on most is the Running in the Night track, FM84 with Ollie Ride, but also the Midnight tracks. The Midnight's got his the Comeback Kid course up on Sonic Academy as well, so that's worth having a look at. But if you look at Running in the Night, Sunset and the Comeback Kid, the structure of the track and how the track's been kind of written is very much dependent on the vocals itself. So I know a lot of you are probably used to working with instrumental tracks. Some of you might start with techno or trance. And when you start out, it's quite rare for you to have the resources of a vocalist unless you start using remix packs. But when you do have a vocal, you really do need to follow that story, if you like. So in the case of this track, we had verse 1, chorus 1, verse 2, chorus 2. So it was a very structured way of working. So I had a block of vocal and another block of vocal and another block of vocal and another block of vocal. But if you listen to Running in the Night in particular, there is an evolving story in the vocal itself, and there are some extended ad-libs which we weren't using here. Now, one of the reasons for that is that this track was written, conceived, recorded and laid out in pretty much 2 or 3 days. I would imagine that when most artists, I mean myself included in the past, have been working with a vocalist, you could be working on the vocals and the track layout for a number of weeks. We don't have that luxury here, so I'm working to the constraints, although they're not really constraints, of the vocals that we were given. Verse, chorus, and that does dictate the layout of the track somewhat. So that's why we've got an intro, then a verse, then a chorus, then a break, then a verse, then a chorus, then a solo, then the chorus repeat. Now, it could be that the vocals that you receive or that you write or that you record yourself even, you have a kind of verse and chorus. You have that separation in terms of what the melodic content is of the verse versus the chorus and the energy in the verse versus the chorus. And it's one of the reasons why, if you look at the layout here, I've actually changed up the synths used in each individual section. So we've got the pads at the start. These are the pads in the first verse.
What they say. Nobody needed here.
And then we go on to the lead and the pluck, these two sounds in the chorus.
All the way around the sun.
Because they add a very different energy to the verse. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to do, swap them out and adding the faster hi-hats in as well. But then when we go into verse 2, you want to kind of differentiate it somehow. So that's when I brought in the synth sweep. So as well as the pad, we've got the sweep underneath as well. And then what I've also done is I've taken out the kick. Let me pull this down. So the kick at this bar, whatever this is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bar 6 here. So I've deactivated the snare. I've taken out the kick. And then we've got this additional little upsweep here, which is this sound. I love this sound. This was from UFX, whatever. UFX Sweep Up 10. Now, when I use these little incidental samples, I will often just go through the sample packs. This one happened to jump out at me and it was already in the right key, so it's kind of fate, if you like. But I took out these little drum parts and I put in this reverse sweep just to differentiate verse 2 from verse 1. What have I got soloed? That. And it gives you that 80s fist pump kind of thing.
Lifting off, I can feel the heat. I can hear my digital heartbeat.
No, I mean, actually, that's my favourite part of the track, I have to admit. It's cheesy, but it's my favourite part of the track. So yeah, that's what we're working with. So like I said, really, when you're doing a track layout on a track like this, I know, like if you're doing trance, there is quite often a very structured formula that you have to work with, because you've got the DJ intro, you've got the build-up. I've done the trance course before. Not always. You don't have to follow it, but you need the build-up, you need the break, you need the drop, that kind of thing. You don't necessarily have to do that with this kind of music, and it's quite freeing in a way. But it's a good idea, if you can, to work with a vocalist. If you have an idea for a vocal, they may have their own ideas as well. You know, remember, these guys and girls, the vocalists, if you're not a vocalist yourself, they've often done this a lot more than you have. So they might have an idea of a direction to take the track as well. So listen to what they've got to say, and the way you respond with drums and synths can be very much dependent on what they provide you. You know, if they're singing about this kind of intense, quiet line about loss or love or that kind of thing, you're not going to want to have these big snare drums in the background, and you might want to have a little bit of plinky electric piano in a synthwave style track. So really, that's the reason I have the layout that I have here. It is mainly because of the vocals I was provided, and it works fine. It's not that one way is better than the other. You just have to kind of there has to be a synergy between the vocal and what you do in the background. So that's pretty much all I want to say on that. I think there's nothing really untoward about the way I've done it here. It's actually fairly simple. But yeah, it's about, you know, and if you are going to repeat sections, try and change them up a little bit as you go. It's not that there's necessarily anything wrong. Like chorus 2 here and chorus 2 repeat, they're exactly the same. Because that's just the way I did it here. But you can put in these little incidental and then add different parts in, like verse 2 has got this additional synth compared to verse 1. So just try and this is almost a progressive way of creating the music. So if you think about progressive trance, there's a build-up of elements. So that's kind of what I've done here. So next we'll have a closer look at the lead guitar, because there's a couple of different techniques used in there. So we'll look at that next. See you there.